sometimes we get things wrong. And when we do, we should admit that. A while back, I was up at Speaker's Corner talking to Jordan, the Muslim who wears the cross. And we were talking about Israel, Palestine, and Zionism, and Jerusalem being the capital of Israel, or not. And he mentioned that at times Israel has gone around the world capturing Jews and bringing them to Israel against their will. Now, as far as I know, that's incorrect. I don't think that's true, but there's an element of truth to what he's saying, and a little knowledge is dangerous. Now, I should have picked him up on it straight away and said, hang on a minute, Jordan, what are you talking about? Where is your evidence for this? But I didn't. I sort of tried to back up what he was saying, or guide him back closer to what I would regard as a version of the truth. And I said, yes, I'm aware that Ethiopian Jews were taken from Ethiopia during a famine, which is true. And I mentioned the wrong name. I called it Operation Magic Carpet, but I've since learned from being corrected that was in Yemen, and that the operation to take Jews out of Ethiopia was Operation Solomon. And prior to that, there were similar operations, Operation Moses and Operation Joshua. And we should get our facts right when it comes to things like this, because if we get it wrong, the people making the case for the other side, hello, a lot of people walking their dogs in the snow today, beautiful day. If we get it wrong, if we get the detail wrong, then the people that we're attempting to argue with and reason with will be able to say, well, if they get it wrong about that, what else might they be wrong about? So, what really happened? Operation Moses, Operation Joshua, Jews in Ethiopia were rescued from a famine, several thousand of them, and airlifted to Israel and plonked down in a country they'd never been to, or they hadn't been to for a couple of thousand years. And there was debate even regarding whether or not they should be considered Jewish. And Ethiopian Jews have received racism in Israel, but there's racism in every country. So I was wrong not to pick up on the mistake that had been made. I was wrong to just sort of brush over it in an effort to make the point that Israel has always needed an influx of Jewish population in order to legitimize the fact that it's the Jewish state. We shouldn't need to demonize our enemies if the truth is on our side. We should stick to the truth. We should stick to what we know to be factually correct. And if we get it wrong, and if we're corrected, then we need to acknowledge that, and that's how we learn. And if we're hoping that our opponents would do the same, then that's what we should do. And the truth is that Jews weren't captured against their will around the Arab world, the Arab and Muslim world, unless someone can bring forth evidence to the contrary. My understanding is that is not what happened. What happened was, through their stupidity through their idiocy, the Arab leaders, the Arab governments made life difficult for Jewish people in the Arab and Muslim world. And life that hadn't been as difficult for thousands of years prior to the creation of the Jewish state. When there was Jewish persecution, or rather persecution of Jews in Europe, when that was rife, the Jews fled Europe and went to the Muslim world. The Sephardic Jewish community that was expelled from Spain, along with the Muslims, went to live with the Muslims in Morocco. And this is what Jordan was getting at. Jordan being of a Moroccan background, he's well aware that the Jews lived with the Muslims for thousands of years, or at least 1,000 years, in Morocco together. And it is sad that after the creation of Israel, Arab leaders and Arab governments made the mistake that is the conflation that Zionist equals Jew and Jew equals Zionist. Not all Jews are Zionists, not all Zionists are Jews, and as Joseph mentioned the other day, another Jewish Zionist friend down at Speaker's Corner, most Zionists in the world are not Jews. There are 30 million right-wing fundamentalist Christians, evangelical Christians, who are Zionist. And we can debate the definition of Zionist as well, because if you go by the Balfour Declaration and you are a Zionist in the sense that you just want a homeland for Jews, not at the expense of the local inhabitants, i.e. the Palestinians, then I think that would be a form of Zionism that we could probably accept quite easily. But as history will tell you, the creation of the Zionist state, the Jewish state, has been at the expense of the Palestinians. And if we want to help the Palestinians in their cause, we have to be very careful about our behaviour. We have to tread very carefully, and we have to not get drawn into racism, xenophobia, anti-Semitism. The circumstances that were created in the Arab and Muslim world that meant that the Jews living there would rather up and leave and go and live in the new Zionist state. The fact that life was made difficult for them in the Arab and Muslim world has helped create and perpetuate the Palestinian Nakba. And every time a Muslim stands up and says this and that against the Jews, kill the Jews, you Jew this, you Jew that, you are just helping pour petrol on the fire that has set Palestine alight.